A brief summary on ancient aliens. What seemed to be like a movie before seems to be playing out in front of our eyes now, as if we were all involved in some grand tension at the end of the ages. But where fascination held in wonder with our childlike eyes goes too far, obsession takes the reins, and what we first thought was honest child's play becomes a horrific sight, truly peering into a darker reality we cannot wish to unignore. The concept, the legend, and the practical madness itself of believing in ancient aliens. I thought that I should be a scriptwriter, but I like living in reality a whole lot better. Ancient aliens, the term always never made sense to me, as a kid being both German and Mexican mixed. I heard stories passed down from my family members about the Nazis. I had an uncle who served MP duty at the Nuremberg trials, and my grandfather served in the Air Force after World War II, where he would go to such distant lands as Turkey. He spilt the beans, and he said one night around a barbecue while he smoked his 16th homemade cigarette that day that the Soviets gained access into the latest toys that Hitler wanted to unveil, such as the Discopter by Alexander Vyers. He said that before the war ended, Hitler was trying to buy time, and this was why he did the seemingly foolish thing and invaded Russia in the middle of the winter. To Hitler, it was all a game, such as a madman's child's play. Yet all this, according to my grandpa, was so that the following spring the Nazis would start flying UFOs in the Luftwaffe over Europe and recreate H.G. Wells's guaranteeing a quick victory, end of the war, and claim Germany as a winner. I grew up listening to such stories, and while it seems far-fetched, we see that people are aroused by fantasy and will believe in anything but the truth. As a child, I also used to hear my grandpa on my mother's side, the one whom I am named after, about such tales as the Aztecs and in their beliefs, and when the conquistadors came to the New World that they had to destroy all of the idols, some of which are being misconstrued today as being ancient aliens. So Nazis, aliens, Aztecs, UFOs, they were all tantalizing as a kid growing up, and subjects always pondered on. Then I saw Indiana Jones with my grandpa, the original one, the best one. And suddenly I knew what I wanted to do with my life. Become a biblical studies professor. So there's that. But little did I know that Indiana Jones was not all about the Bible. That lasted like a total of 3 minutes. But it set the stage for a fantastical gate of whacked out theories to be let loose in society, since I think, in 1981. Mainstream, that is. Regardless, ancient aliens as a heresy became a side hobby for me. I had read Chariots of the Gods, Was God an Ancient Astronaut by Daniken, and quickly brushed it off as fan fiction and a nice bedtime story. Famous last words. Until I saw someone that I recognized on TED Talks back in 2014. Lo and behold, Jacques Vallée, that Frenchy guy who said we needed to start working on building a unified language to start communicating with aliens who were long here before humanity was. He was also the guy that inspired that character in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But I guess Frenchy Jackie Vallée never heard of Esperanto and that failed attempt. Suddenly everyone was interested in the idea that Ezekiel witnessed ancient aliens, and that aliens and angels in the wheels of the wheels were actually aliens aboard UFOs. Still, my first thought when I saw this French character and scam artist, again 4 years after high school, was, that's weird. Now back to my Haaretz magazine. I brushed off a weird TED Talk and kept moving on with my studies and continued gawking at cool archaeology from Jerusalem in magazines. Then I see this Jackie again on Joe Rogan in 2018, only 4 years later, talking about the Dogon people in Africa and their run-in with ancient aliens. And finally, a new thought came to me. Oh, okay, alright, that does it. This nonsense is getting out of hand. Frenchie needs to shut up now. Growing up in Houston, I went to the Museum of Fine Arts, and there was my first interaction with Dogon art from Africa. Needless to say, they did believe in it. They were in a pagan society, and they did believe in aliens, but their aliens were actually the gods. And I believe that Frenchie was actually coming up with something that could be capitalized on. So a life's work does not go away overnight, and Jackie Frenchman has spent a lifetime trying to figure out the paranormal, the spiritual, the ethereal, and that strange Twilight Zone eerie sound we hear. So I started with my side hobby again from the beginning, where I know the whole charade was going to end up back again. Genesis 6:24. So with the following resources, which I'll list down here below in this video, I made a truth claim. Genesis 6:24, Enoch, Augustine's assessment in the field of Campania, the Book of Enoch, Chapter 1, Book 1, the Ethiopic Enoch, the Coptic Enoch, the Greek Enoch traditions. But hey, I suppose a good Christian boy is not supposed to read the Book of Enoch, right? Well, too bad. I've crossed over, it seems. Yet I still maintain a fresh, reformed outlook with the belief in the supernatural from my charismatic roots. But in all seriousness, we do get somewhat of an answer from Enoch regarding aliens. It could be explained as follows. Ancient aliens, like the gods or the demigods of the Greek past and the stories that we used to hear, in the form of present mythology and false religion idols, are in fact demons, posing as angels or watchers, who are still called the Sheddim in Hebrew, or essentially just meaning nasty. Demonic spirits of the Nephilim, who are to be cursed, and are to be judged at the end of time. There evidently was a war in heaven, which might have possibly rendered the heavenly bodies scarred, and in the process damaged the planets, perhaps the moon, from becoming uninhabitable. Except for Earth. Does that sound like a C.S. Lewis novel to y'all? Earth was the crown jewel of God's creation. Why else would he send his son to redeem the prize of his creation, mankind? The answer, of course, is easy, so that the man would be in relationship with God through the Son of Man and the Son of God, Jesus Christ. Still, I have no problem with this ancient alien business or reading Enoch, because as crazy as it sounds, it helps with the current situation of interest rising in old and young alike. Have y'all heard about the Smiths, Willow and Jaden, that is, Will Smith's kids, or Demi Lovato or any of these other LGBTites, who think to themselves, perhaps not as so secretly as we would like, that they are becoming part alien or that they are part alien, and that's why they are weird. Whatever pseudoscience may come up with, it can be a God-sent opportunity to give the real gospel of Jesus Christ to those who may indeed have confusion of faces, as it says in Daniel chapter 9. The fact of the matter is this: we need to address the spiritual realm, like Michael Heiser has superbly committed himself to, and give an answer for spiritual things, not just doctrinal issues. Honestly, I believe that doctrinal issues will always be issues, just like apologetics will always be a field maintained by apologists. But added onto these important doctrinal issues, we will have to answer for the spiritual realm interwoven through them as well. Why were we predestined? For God's glory, and that humanity is the only species by which God chose to redeem, not plants, not animals, not angels nor demons. To which of the angels did he say, "The Lord said to my Lord, come and sit at my right hand until I make thy enemies a footstool for thy feet"? See what I mean? As a side note, I would even go so far as to say that when choosing a church, a question to be asked is whether the pastor is open to kicking out a demon. If and only if the opportunity only made itself absolutely necessary. The priests in the Coptic, Ethiopic, and Greek Orthodox churches are trained. Why not Western Protestant pastors? Oh right, demons are talked about, or spiritual things only in the demonology classes, or the Satanology classes, but not in the big Eva churches. Perhaps that's where the problem lies, that mainstream churchianity did not provide an answer for the spiritual realm. Perhaps that's why we were all made to wear a mask, because an invisible flu was to kill us. Was this not sent from the abyss? And if this disease was sent from the abyss, would that not entail that we should understand the spiritual realm a little bit more? Or was it just a flu? Food for thought. My argument is that this is why the subject of the supernatural realm should be discussed all the more. Because as big tech, big pharma, big government, and ironically, big evangelical are now all breaking up, the spiritual is going to become more and more of a present reality in everyday people's lives, just as it always has been since the very beginning. But then again, these are my ideas. Nobody has to listen to them. But my biggest beef with Big Eva, and also the evangelical seminaries, which I was involved in briefly, but not most all of the Christian seminaries, did not prepare us for this specific kind of spiritual warfare. There are still some good seminaries out there willing to bring to light what has been hidden in the darkness of some backdoor, smoke-filled liberal and intellectualist elitist think tank rooms. What we might see in the near future is yet another attempt at an evolutionary breakthrough, which will really be just another attempt at dislodge as reality from the masses. Instead of Lucy skeleton, found somewhere in Ethiopia to be a radiocarbon dated at some ridiculous amount of years in the past, some exoskeleton from another moon mission, or the way Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos keep talking, a mission attempt to Mars, will hold the key to our ancestry and evolutionary past. So then the latest fad, or scam, really, as it shall be, like I'm predicted, right? Interplanetary archaeology. That is, if these nutjobs like Machinko, DeGrasse, Elon Musk, Bezos, and the other Lonely Hearts Club band can pull this scam off. The rise of the overlords, the noon sphere, and all that good stuff, Planet X, will be attempted, this is for sure, and so that they, again, whoever they are, can get the fame, glory, and vanity of winning another Nobel Peace Prize. Oh, and the money. Don't forget the age-old commodity of money. I'm sure all of this sounds totally insane and mentally certifiable for a mental health ward, and yet there are some people in society who will buy it. Because, well, look at Charles Darwin. That British guy with an interest in science hops on a boat to the Galapagos Islands, says that some birds win, others don't, and voila. Instant macroevolution. Oh, and by the way, humans are descended from apes. When The Origin of the Species was first published, people thought Darwin was indeed quite insane to assert that we, as all humanity, were once somehow this planet of the apes. Even Charles Spurgeon would say the theory of evolution that it was bunk. I paraphrase, of course. Yet ponder with me what these intellectual elitists, who have totally sold out to the religion of evolutionary biology, ever heard of the term, I'm not a biologist? With the globalist, secularist, humanist political agenda would have everyone believe another theory, if you will. One theory which will prove itself to be nothing but pseudoscience. But Jesus is king, not Darwin. This new crazy theory I have to make sense of this pseudoscience madness is this: whether man is descended from apes, still left to be debated amongst the secularists, because we always need more and more evidence to support this. But it's still clear that with the issues plaguing humanity today, such as the flu, humanity today is reminiscent to the bestial nature of his predecessor, the ape. But what if there are myriads of evolved beings, aliens, if you will, ancient aliens, the gods of the past, who are not only of higher powers than us, but of course these extraterrestrial beings are more involved than all humanity? Isn't this what the Coldplay song Higher Powers proposes anyway? Moreover, it is now inevitably clear that because humanity was intelligently designed, that these extraterrestrial beings must be the progenitors of a human race, such as the Zuni, the Hopi, the Dogon, and other indigenous peoples assert. Therefore, the indigenous peoples are not less evolved than us, but rather even more so self-aware and on a higher plane of consciousness, because they know their roots, that they believe that they are descended from the star gods and star people. End quote. Therefore, the whole of the human race are in fact, at present, for all intents and purposes, the apes, and the higher beings, the aliens, the angels, the star gods, the star people, whatever they may be called, and the gods of the supposed mythological past are all in fact the same thing. Just like they did with dragons and dinosaurs, the confusion remains the same. But in fact, they are here to help. What is the message that these ancient aliens always bring, or that modern aliens always bring, if they are in fact the same thing? In fact, they are here to quote-unquote help. They're here to unify us all. They are here to help reinforce that we must conserve the planet. But the greatest gift that they bring to us is technology, communication by telepathy, environmental and racial unity to all creation, and, in some strange circles, communication with animals. Imagine a world in which all beings, plants and animals, and people can harmonize and communicate together as a collective universe, known as the Noon Sphere. And there you have it. I mean, seriously, you can't make up the truth that's evidently more bizarre than sci-fi fantasy. But did you get that one phrase? Intelligently designed. This was the final blow to the old world Darwinism and evolution and the yada yada. It was only a matter of time until the likes of Carl Sagan, Richard Dawkins, Richard Hitchens, Stephen Hawking, and the like would have eventually had to concede that, yes, all of creation, there's that pesky Christian lonehorn again, must have been intelligently designed. But also the question of the identity of these beings is left. Then again, perhaps people are spending too much time in that heresy, the metaverse, and watching History Channel at 3 a.m., maybe all of this pseudo-nonsense really will just stay that, a last-ditch effort to try and publicly malign God's church and the Bible, believing in Jesus-following Christians and their interpretation of what science is. That is what the Bible says science truly is. My grandpa always said, and it's genuinely funny that we begin to start saying that at some point in our lives to add validation to our points. But my grandpa always said, this is not the age of technology, but of communication. We must all learn how to better communicate with one another. There are days I cry because I miss that man. We need more men with intellect like this. But regardless of those who have the scientific gift, or if you're like me and you in fact don't, we all need a way of life or lifestyle by which we can adhere to, a standard taken from a Christocentric worldview, and one with respect to history. According to Luther, life is repentance. According to Bonhoeffer, Christ's life is reality. According to Watchman Nee, Christ is the sum total of all spiritual things. How can these ideas of life be focused into one cohesive Christian lifestyle? Certainly the mainstream Christian denominations don't have an answer. It looks like we need to go back to basics and rebuild from the wreckage that big evangelical corruption, as well as globalist secularist humanism, has left us with. But who will come along to say that life is warfare? This is, of course, not the whole of life, but it is indeed an aspect which involves, throughout most of our lives, an idea that spiritual warfare is the topic by which we must introduce the story of angels and demons. The Western Church has been blessed for a long time to have peace from evil on a grand scale, such a grand scale as this. But because of hardness of heart and lust and irresponsibility, the spiritual kingdom of darkness is about to be unleashed in a full force, such as not been seen perhaps since before the Reformation. There were times we could say that there were moments where the curtain of eternity was pulled back for but a moment. World War I, World War II, the various cults that led people astray, and essentially claimed man to be God. Isn't that what's happening now? Intense drug and alcohol and sex abuse that ran rampant. But now the occult is in the people's faces, and it's time for the church to say, not today, Satan, Jesus is king. The church will experience the greatest revival known since the Reformation, and Jesus will be proclaimed all throughout the earth again. And Satan will have rued his very existence again. From the day he told Eve to eat the forbidden fruit, to the day he thought, maybe I should make up an ancient alien story. I can't wait to see how this epic is going to play out.